What's up YouTube, Jay Traveling here, and today I've got my GTX 1070 Gaming X Trio GPU. Now this graphics card I took offline. It was mining Ethereum and it was doing pretty well and it was still profitable, but I took it off because I had more efficient cards and 30 series cards that I wanted to get onto the rig, and I really didn't have a spot for it anymore. So this one had to come off the rig until I got more parts, which I have gotten parts, but I've also gotten more GPUs that mine a little more efficient than this. But today what I want to do is test this on Flux. Now, I have heard that the 10 series cards are pretty good on Flux, but I haven't really tested it out. So right now my test bench here, right behind me, I still have my 3060 Gaming X Trio on there. So I'll take that off of that and put this on there. We'll test it out, see what hash rates we can get and efficiency we can get out of it. Now I will test it at stock clocks right out of the box and see what happens. And anyone that's mined Flux before knows that the hash rate can bounce around quite a bit, and it does take a little bit for the miner to show true hash rate. So let's go ahead, I'm gonna get it on the test bench and we'll start mining with it and see what it can do. All right, so we have it up and running and it looks like it's still dialing in, but it looks like I'm pulling almost 218 watts. Now this is 100% TDP, no overclocks. And it looks like we're about to settle in at 36, almost 37 souls a second. But we're running pretty hot. The one thing I did change, I put the fan at 70%. Now, it did bump up to 39 souls, though. I'm doing pretty much where I was at with this card here. I was doing 39 to 40 soul, but this was running at 120 watts, or 140 watts, not 220. So, let's go ahead and tweak some settings. I'm gonna add a little bit of, I'm gonna add 200 to the core. I'm gonna pull this down to 80. I'm gonna bump the memory 200 and we'll apply it. Now, I did notice that I could bring my memory down quite a bit on my 3060 and achieve just as good at overclocks and settings than I would on ETH, because ETH is more memory intensive, so you want to pretty much pump the memory as much as you can. Now on 3080s and 3090s, that can be pretty rough because, you know, the memory just heats up. All right, so I am dropping souls. I'm also dropping wattage, but my soul to wattage here is going up. So that's really what I'm going to look at. So I'm at 34 souls right now, 30 souls, but I'm still at 0.22 souls a watt. So that is to me more important than my overall souls a second. Now at the wall I'm doing, it says 104 watts. So I'm thinking that the wattage is still going to keep dropping a little bit. So I might be able to pump this up just a tad and see if I can achieve more souls, because I'm still dropping. So let's let this run for a minute and then we will see where we're at with it. All right, so I'm still dropping souls significantly. So it also is reporting wattage droppage, but my souls a second's good, but I'm down to, it looks like around 17 souls. So the different memory and core clocks, it's higher even in the software, but it's not mining any faster. My wattage is dropping pretty bad. So I'm gonna set this to 85. Maybe I can pull the power back up slightly and get it so I'm still at like the 0.24 souls a watt, but about 30 souls. According to the software, if I can do that, I'll pretty much be at my peak efficiency. So we'll see where I have to be at for that. Now, we're working on percentage, and I could go into a curve editor, but I didn't edit it and edit in millivolts to achieve that proper wattage that I want. But let's just keep using a percentage scale here and see where I can land, because my wattage is still dropping. So I'm gonna let this run at 85 and see what happens. I may put it up to 90 and see where I'm at when I have it at 90% power. And I'm gonna leave these clocks where they're at, and when I get the power adjusted to where I want it, I will then try and tweak the core and the memory. So it looks like we got one invalid share. Now this could be a number of things. It could be too aggressive of an overclock. The card could have been getting too hot, or bad internet. So I'm gonna actually bring down my wattage just slightly. So we're gonna go to 75 and we're gonna see what happens now. I know I could just up the power back up and probably run this thing at about 40 sols. So right now it's performing almost on par with this, except in wattage. This was more efficient in wattage. This was, like I said, this was running 140. Now I could have upped the power on this and probably achieved more sols a second, and got more like solutions, so not. But it looks like it's solving getting some shares. So I'm not too worried about that one since I just booted the miner. That tends to happen sometimes. So I'll leave this at 75. So on my watt meter, it says I'm pulling 175 watts in the software. My watt meter says I'm doing about 209 watts total system power. So we're not too far off in 0.22 solutions a watt. So efficiency isn't terrible, but it's not great on this card. But I'm gonna put it at 70 now, see if I get a little bit better of results right here. Now this card also, I can mention just from overclocking it on Ethereum, I do know that putting too much memory on this on Windows does crash this card also. It's an older card. I mean, it's been gamed on, mined on. It's been put through its paces. So now we are looking at 0.23 solutions per watt. Now, I have not let this run too long, so this could, with it bouncing around so much, it could not be as accurate as we'd like. But we started out with 0.17 and then 1.19, so we are getting slightly more efficient. Now, why would you want to sacrifice hash rate for better efficiency? Pretty much it's self-explanatory in my sense, as I would say. The more efficient you are, the more profit you can make, because you're not spending as much on electricity, but you're still making a little bit more profit. Even though you're not bringing in as much revenue, you still make a little bit more profit. So that's why we look at efficiency when we're mining and overclocking. Now, in a bull run, a lot of people just push their cards as hard as possible and get as much revenue as possible, because the profit margin, even though it's a little bit smaller, doesn't really matter as much because you're making so much more money. So I'm going to bring this down to 65 and see what happens here, because we're at 0.23 solutions a second. We're hovering around 38 sols a second. Now, if I can get this slightly closer and still keep 38-ish sols a second and get this closer, it might compete and contend with a 3060 on Flux. It is pretty close according to this test. Now, we're at 37, but this has to settle in. So let's put it down to 60 and see if we can get down to 140-ish watts. Now my watt meter right now is reading roughly 190 watts at the wall for total system power, and we're down to 160 watts at 0.24, but we need to wait for this to settle in. So let's give it a couple minutes here, or a minute or two, and see what happens. So it looks like we're dropping closer to 37 sols a second, but we dropped down to 154 watts, and I'm at roughly 174 watts total system power at the wall. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna drag this all the way down. We're just gonna go to 50 and we're gonna see what happens to our sols. Now, I do expect this to probably drop closer to 30, but I do expect my power to be closer to 100 watts or 110 watts. So let's see what happens here. Now my total system power is dropped to 153, bouncing around there, 153 watts. And look how much cooler my card is running also, 49 Celsius. So that's pretty good. And my accepted shares is going up now. Like I said, that one invalid, I do get that on my 30 series cards that are on Flux right now. Every once in a while I get one invalid, so I don't worry about it. As long as I can stay, like, I'll monitor this. As long as I stay above 99%, I'm usually okay with that. So let's see where we're at. 36 souls, 0.25, 50. We're still, it actually bumped up to about 167 watts at the wall. Now I'm down to about 145-ish watts in the software. 144. So, I mean, this right now is my most efficient. My card's running cooler, and I'm right on par with this at about 140 watts, but this pushed out about 4 to 5 more souls a second. Now, if you're buying these cards, you can get these new. It's probably more worth it to get the 3060 because it's going to be more beneficial on other algorithms. But it looks like we're also still dropping in souls a second. So I don't want to say that it's completely where it's at. I think I'd probably run this at about 60% where I had it if I was going to run this all the time. But I don't plan on keeping this on the rig. I just wanted to test it out and see what it could do. But yeah, it looks like we're still dropping. I wonder if I put 150. Let's see if I crash the driver. If I put 150 on the memory. I'll know if I crash it because my wattage will just keep sinking and sinking really fast. Right now it doesn't look like it, so let's see if we just bump that a little bit, if I can get a little more souls a second. So I'm gonna let this run for like a minute and see what happens. All right, so letting it run, looks like I'm still achieving a 0.26 souls a watt at roughly 133 watts, 132, 133 watts. Now my watt meter is still reading 154 watt total system power at the wall, but we're still hovering in this 34.5 souls a second, and it looks like it's starting to stabilize out there. Now it will bounce around some. If I just kept letting it mine, sometimes it'll report 35, sometimes it'll probably report 33. And at the pool, if you look at it, it's just like all over the place. But it looks like that's the most efficient. If I were to keep running this, like I said, I'd probably run it at 60%. And even though I drop 0.02 efficiency, I would still have that as my sweet spot. But if you're looking for total straight efficiency, it looks like bringing the power all the way down on this model card at least gave you my most efficient. Now it looks like I'm hovering at about 130 watts. It's settling in, and it's probably where it's at. But my total system power is about 170-ish now. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm pretty much going to say that that's my overclocking. So hopefully if you guys are mining Flux, you can see at the what the 1070 can do. 100% TDP, you're looking at, 200 watts in the software at about 40 solutions a second. If you pull it down just a tad, you can obviously achieve a little bit better efficiency, but you're going to sacrifice obviously the solutions a second. Now this card, like I said, once I start adding core to it, it was crashing, so I couldn't add core. And I got it up to plus 150 memory. I don't want to push it too far because I know it will crash the card. And it looks like 34 souls a second is where I'm at. I'm still 154 watts at the wall. All right, so now we did some overclocking and undervolting. Let's go ahead and check what to mine, and we'll get an estimate of what you will be looking to earn per day. Now, this does not factor in 100% of the parallel assets that you may receive, but it does do a good job at trying to estimate what you should get. Now, we'll do 100% TDP where we got 39 souls a second, but it was pulling around 220 watts. Now, on Flux, you'll be looking at about $1.08 a day and 39 cents profit. Now this is based on 13 cents per kilowatt hour, which is similar to what I pay right now. And this is filmed on January 26th, 2022. So this could obviously change as the price of Flux changes. And this is at 100% TDP. Now, if we went to when we went to 75% power, it said I was getting 38 sols a second out of roughly 175 watts. So if we calculate that, we're doing $1.05 a day, but we're also profiting 50 cents a day for just the one solo card. Now, you notice that revenue went down, but your profitability still went up slightly because our efficiency went up. Now, in order to get a true number, I have to let this run for a long time for it to bounce around and get a true one, but let's check at 50% when we did 34 solutions a second, and I was able to do it at 127 watts in the software. Now, I would generate 95 cents per day of revenue, but after I pay my electric, I'm looking at roughly 56 cents per day profit. So this is why you really want to look at efficiency. Now, not always lowering it all the way down will give you the better efficiency. Sometimes it's somewhere in the middle where you get a higher hash rate and a higher power consumption, but your efficiency will be better. So it's always good to calculate that out. But thanks for checking this video out. I just want to give you guys an idea of what a 1070 I could achieve on Flux, all the hash rates and profitability of just my one single 1070. Now, I'm not doing an ROI because you have to buy these used, and the price of it is going to be all over the place. You may be able to find one at a really good deal, and you may be finding one from a scalper that's selling it for like $400 or $500. But thanks for checking this video out. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more.